Good morning, fish keepers. Cam here from thefishroom.co.nz. We've done it again. We've made it to Friday. Let's give it a chahoo with some coffee. That's good. That is a fresh bag of beans. Good. All right. Let's push some buttons. Let's make some magic happen. And we've got John sitting, lurking in the wings. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yourself?
I'm very, very good. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
We've got a little bit of stuff to talk about today, not a heck of a lot. And then we can just randomly talk about fish and everything else if we want to.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
So first and foremost, and probably most important, is our hours have changed. So, in addition to our Monday to Friday, 11 to 4:30, as of this weekend, we are open on Saturdays as well. So from 10 till 3, the physical shop will be open. You won't be seeing my ugly mug. You'll be seeing Holly. She'll be taking over the retail shop on the Saturdays. Anyone that's coming on Wednesday or Thursday in the last sort of month and a half, 2 months or so, you would have met Holly as well. So she's been in and about, so she knows what she's up to. She's good at what she does, so I'm sure she'll be able to help anybody with any questions or any product recommendations and whatnot as well. So as of this week, we are now open on the weekend. So anybody that is local to us can come along and jump in the shop and hopefully get their aquarium fix on the weekend now. So that is a happy day. Morning, Rocky. How you doing, buddy? So I thought I would do an update on our live food that we were tinkering around with and playing with. At this stage, we are still at ground zero. Tried a couple of different methods, both things. The food, the live insects and bugs and critters and stuff wouldn't stay alive for longer than 24 hours, which is not going to be long enough for freight. And then we had the massive lot of heat that came through, and I'm pretty sure the hatchery behind me got far too hot. And then all the Daphnia crashed on that, and then I had a bit of issues hatching the brine shrimp as well. So just trying to build my colonies back up of the Daphnia and get the brine shrimp cranking along nicely as well. I've had to put all the white worms in the fridge and that sort of stuff. It's been pretty warm back here, so that's where we're at with that. Once I can get those colonies back running again, we will look at trying to stabilize them for shipping as well. So a bit of a shame. We'll get there eventually. The only ones that didn't suffer during the last sort of 10 days or so was the vinegar eels. They've been absolutely fine, which is kind of cool. So yeah, it's just everything else hasn't gone the right way, but that is what it is. It's all about learning, and it's all about working things out basically. Over your way, they keep all their live foods in chillers, correct? And they send them all cold, don't they?
Yes. Like the little fridges with beers in.
Yeah. Yeah. And you reckon they can last up to a week in those fridges?
Yeah, they get a weekly delivery. I picked up some that had been delivered 5 days prior, and it was still kicking away.
Okay. Yeah. See, I couldn't even get them to live 24 hours in the fridge in a glass jar. So need to work that out, because they all come in little plastic tube things, eh?
Yeah, that's right. It's pre-sealed, so
yeah.
I don't know what the difference is.
I wouldn't have thought that a plastic bag over a glass jar would make any difference on it. It might come down to the density of whatever products in the container and oxygen exchange and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyway,
there's got to be something like that.
Yeah, we'll work it out. Good things take time, so get there eventually. Over the coming week, we'll have some new fish going out into the shop. Dwarf chain loaches, paradise fish, black phantoms, and then something else. And then the week after, we've got some more coming through as well. Electric blue acaras, agassiz eyes, and blue emperor tetras. So that's just the ones that I have just written down. There's a few other bits and pieces coming through. And so then once that's all cleared out, the fish tanks at the back cleared out, we'll be doing a order for some more fish. So if there's anything anybody isn't particularly looking for, please feel free to send us a message, and if we can find it, I'll get it at the same time. Yeah, if I can find it for you, then there's no dramas with that whatsoever. I can get it in at the same time. Good morning, Shelley. How are you doing? We're just discussing how I believe the heat has affected the live food that we're preparing, and Daphnia colonies crashed, and it looked like the white worms were about to crash, so they're in the fridge and stuff like that. So for those that don't know, next week Shelley's coming on and talking with us about live food, cultivating them, preparing them, feeding them out, and that kind of stuff. So there'll be a pretty good session for us. I'm looking forward to that. A wealth of knowledge when it comes to sorting out live food. It'll be a good time. Project Duckweed is well underway. I'm getting there. Every time I think I'm getting there, I look into another tank and I know that I'm not getting there. Duckweed is so much fun, but yeah, slowly but surely it's happening.
It will happen.
Yeah, I've almost got it down to like one full tank in the main shop system, which I'll be removing this week, maybe today if I get the chance, and then a few floating little leaves hanging around, and then out the back, I think I'm down to 3 full tanks and then some floating about. So if I can get rid of the floating around stuff and isolate them to those 3 tanks or so, then we're away laughing. But got to get that done first. As I said a couple of weeks back, this year is a moving year for us as far as pushing on extra stuff on our social media and trying to hit some of our goals and things like that. So you'll see at the bottom of this, we've got our Instagram handle hanging around and our Spotify account if you're listening to our podcasts. So obviously, fantastic if you can subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you're into podcasts, jump over onto Spotify, find the Aquarium Frenzy podcast, and then follow that. We've got a new podcast coming out today. It's the episode that we spoke to Chris Inglezu. I really enjoyed that. I've been following Chris for a very long time. It was a real highlight for me to have the opportunity to speak to him. I think he's a very knowledgeable man when it comes to the work that he's doing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was right up there with speaking to Ivan for me. Both of them have been people that I've followed since I first started keeping aquariums. So that was both of them were absolute highlights. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I feel I was a little bit starstruck, which is a fun time. So yeah,
a fanboy.
Very much a fanboy. There's no argument there. I'm not going to deny that. So yeah, that podcast is out today, ready to rock and roll. I released it about 10 minutes before we started, so probably not the best timing. You might want to listen to the podcast and listen to me ramble on here on YouTube and Facebook, but see how we go. And Glenn, I saw him mention something about blackworms. So Shelley is pretty on it when it comes to that as well. So we'll make sure we breach on that topic. As far as I go, my blackworm colony basically did not get started, and I think this guy couldn't put the time into it leading into Christmas. So I feel now that everything has definitely settled down, so I'll be giving that another shot pretty soon as well. So yeah, where's the coffee? Here's the coffee.
Even I'm on the coffee tonight.
Coffee's a good time. I should have let the milk heat up a little bit more. It's a little bit cold, but I suppose a bit colder is better than hot. So pre-Christmas or just on Christmas, I showed a couple of photos of the betta racks in the fish room that we were going to stock bettas with. That's come to a grinding halt for one main reason, and that's because I haven't been able to find a hang-on back filter that I like well enough that's going to do what I need to go on them. So the Aqua One tanks, obviously the Aqua One hang-on backs will work. I don't like the idea of the cartridge. I don't like the idea that I can't put anything extra in them. I was trying to use the Aqua Clears because they've got a really deep cavity and you can add your own media to them. Unfortunately, the size that I want has been discontinued in New Zealand. I try looking at, I think it's the Aquils from Aqua House. Unfortunately, they are too deep and they won't fit the gap between the wall and the aquarium, so that's not working there. And I don't want to use sponge filters. It's not that I have anything against sponge filters. I'm trying to make that fish room as quiet as possible, and hearing the bubbling noise is just not what I'm trying to achieve. Also, in a small 20-litre tank, I feel there's not enough real estate to be losing with having a sponge filter in there. Again, I've got nothing against sponge filters. They will do the job. They'll do what I want them to do. But that's last chance saloon for me. I'd rather try and get these hang-on backs going before I have to go down that route. But yeah, it feels like, unfortunately, that might be getting closer and closer. But we'll see how we go. It should hum. Yeah, I agree. The hatchery out the back absolutely hums. I've got no dramas with that. They're all running on sponges, but I want the retail experience to be a lot quieter and more peaceful and relaxing than noisy and industrial. And yeah, it's not what I'm trying to achieve. So that's where we're at with that. I will keep looking. My hunt is not over yet. I'll see what I can find. How many tanks do we have? I think at last count we're sitting at 83. That was 22 in the main selling area, and then it wasn't including the 8 that were going onto the better racks, and then everything else is sitting at the back in the hatchery. So yeah, I do agree that biggest one's only small. Biggest one holding water is only 4 foot. 4 foot. Just had tadpoles and axolotls and stuff like that in it, and that's one of the duckweed growing tanks. The biggest one that doesn't hold water at the moment is 2.5 meters, and at the moment it's not holding water because it's missing an end piece of glass, so it's never going to hold water at the moment. I got as far as taking the glass off, and I haven't even finished cleaning it off yet, but we'll get there. Good things take time. I keep saying that almost every week that I'll get some more work done on it, but I haven't. Back to the people need to know equipment make noise. I absolutely agree. People do need to know equipment makes noise, but I personally don't advocate for sponge filters being used in display aquariums and things like lounges and bedrooms and stuff like that because they make noise. My personal opinion is that things that are making noise in a lounge, for example, is a distraction, and it's going to annoy people that aren't interested in keeping fish. Whereas if you've got a fish room with sponge filters that make noise, that's kind of the experience, if that makes sense. So most of my clientele that come into the shop aren't fish geeks like us that have lots of aquariums and fish rooms and stuff along those lines. They are people that have 1 or 2 display tanks in their lounge or in their kids' bedroom and that sort of stuff. So again, like you mentioned, people that ask if they can turn their filters off overnight. That to me is potentially a barrier to entry or a barrier of someone keeping their aquarium because they get sick of the noise that their filters make, or the air pumps make is another really bad one. Yeah, I totally agree. Hang-on backs can make noise, but you can adjust that just by raising the water level, basically, just so it's above that noise. So I don't disagree that they don't make noise, but you can tinker with that fairly easily. It's a little bit harder to do that with breaking bubbles. So yeah. Scale of 1 to very, how happy? Yeah, I was pretty happy to wake up this morning and to see that the Australia-India test, we're talking about cricket now, sorry, that the Aussies were in a bit of a state. I missed another comment up here somewhere as well. What was it? Yeah, we'll go through the biggest. Yeah, we've discussed that one. Maybe I'm going crazy.
Who was it from?
I don't know. It just
was it this one?
Judy has 17 aquariums. It definitely wasn't that one. I was trying to avoid that one at all. I was assuming that was Cameron, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
Bloody Cam. And then I knew for sure when he talked about the Australian cricket team, so I knew exactly what it was. Do you mean just like the little white labels on the front of the tanks? Last shop we were running 6 years or so ago, we had I was writing on the tanks. For those that know me, know that my handwriting is absolutely illegible, and lots of people said, "What's that word say?" So we had to go away from that. And a friend of mine basically said to me, "You can't do that. If you do that, I'm going to come in with the myths and rub it all off before you get started on it." So that was it. So we had to look down other avenues. I looked at getting little tags made up with the picture of the fish, the name, species, a little bit of general information, etc., that you could stick onto the tanks, and with a little QR code, you could scan and basically link it to the website with the more information. But I thought because we don't have any bottom pieces underneath the tanks, they'd have to go on the tank and that'd take up too much viewing space and make it look a little bit untidy. So I scrapped that idea fairly quickly, and then tried out with the white labels with the black writing, or the clear labels with the white writing, and the clear with the white looked better. And we're still tinkering around with that. So in the retail space, for example, we've got labelled red swordtails, pineapple swordtails, black and red swordtails, orange swordtails, and assorted swordtails all on the same tank. So we're going to rip off all of them and just have it as a straight swordtails, because they're all the same price anyway. But then on the website, we're going to break it down so you can buy the individual what you're after. You might have a tank full of orange swordtails and you're looking for some red ones, and if you click on a sword and you get another bunch of orange, you'll get really disappointed. So on the website, you'll be able to break down exactly what it is that you're after. Just like you could do if you're walking into the shop, you could say, "Hey, I want 3 of those red ones and 3 of those red and black ones." So that's the plan with that. So it's a little bit of a work in progress. We'll just keep tinking around with that. It's a little bit of extra work, but we'll just slowly but surely tink away on that one. And yeah, for me, the idea of it being quiet and silent, I think, becomes more of a tranquil, peaceful experience. The whole idea for me is when you walk into the fish room in particular, where we're selling the fish, you kind of get transformed and taken away from you're in a retail shop and that you're there to buy stuff. It's a bit of an overwhelming experience with the heat that comes through, the light, the movement of the fish. There's some house plants going around, kind of giving that real jungle feel. There's obviously the smell that you're in with aquariums and stuff like that. And like, there is a bit of noise from the freezer that's in there, and there is a couple of sponge filters already, and like the water coming back from the returns, so you do get a bit of noise as well. But it's about trying to be sort of transformed and just be taken away and just sort of breathing in and experiencing what's going on in that room, as opposed to the sterile.
An experience as opposed to a shopping experience. It's more an experience overall.
Yeah.
Like to visit an aquarium.
Yeah, and part of that is trying to break away from the mold of obviously fish in a sales point of view are a sales thing. They're there to sell, but trying to give the fish themselves the best living environment and trying to just make the whole thing encompassed, as opposed to a warehouse that sells a whole lot of fish, mechanical, metal, ugly looking sort of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Get some disco beats. Ain't getting disco beats. And I don't disagree with you, Shelley. I do like the white noise. I've got no real issue with that at all. You know, I said out the backs like that, but it's trying to keep it as quiet as possible, and the humming of air pumps and bubbles breaking all day long just wouldn't feel right to me for what we're trying to achieve. Is the only thing.
For somebody coming in that's looking for their first aquarium, or they've just set up an aquarium, they need to know that aquariums can be quiet if you want them to, as well as...
Yeah, I'm sure we've all seen over the years on random Facebook pages and stuff, my aquarium's noisy, I've had enough, how do I stop this, blah, 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 blah. So it's all about doing that. Yeah. On that note, with air pumps, if you get a chance, Aqua House have Aquil air pumps. They are so incredibly quiet. It is not funny. It is mind-blowingly how quiet they are. I played around with one a couple of weeks back, and it just blew my mind how quiet they were. So if I do for some reason end up having to go with air pumps, they'll probably be the one that go as the start, because the pump itself is insanely quiet. And then we'll go from there. But yeah, they're brilliant. If you haven't used one, I recommend you getting one and giving them a go. You can't hear it. I also looked at the drip system, running on a full sump. I decided to go against that. I've got a full loop system going with the shop display. I just wanted to go against that to try and get them all individualized, but also because I'm putting snails in the bottom two tanks, I wanted to make sure they were different in case I needed to do a treatment in the tanks as well. Most treatments will knock snails around. Also, having them on a drip or a loop system meant that I couldn't have like two black water tanks, two crystal clear tanks, because all the tanks are going to be slightly different. So all in one system, I couldn't individualize everything as well. So it definitely was definitely in the conversation, but yeah, I decided against that in the long run. Funnily enough, from where I'm sitting, I can see like the main highway in Nelson. And all I can hear from where I'm sitting is the cars going past. And as soon as I open the window, that's all everybody could hear as well. So I totally understand how that works. Yep, I got Sparky in over Christmas time. So there's 4 racks, and each rack has got a double plug outlet. So I made sure that was all sorted under control as well, because I don't really want to burn the building down. So all prepared to be plugging in a lot of different things. But yeah, away we go. There's a little sandfly that's bugging around me. Yes, it's main highway, Cam. You don't have to give us just because Nelson's so small. It's not actually a highway; it's a deviation. So tractors and horses. So I'll get back on track. Not tractors. We released. We'll be releasing another blog today as well. This one is in relation to the difference between what I believe is a narrative that we need to change within the hobby, is that we need to stop talking about the volume of aquariums, and I think we need to start talking about the footprint of aquariums instead. So I'm going to make up some numbers here. A 500 litre aquarium that's 500 litres tall, but only this sort of round, isn't much use to anything. But 500 litres still sounds impressive. 500 litres that is 5 foot long by 2 foot wide and 2 foot high. I know that doesn't make any logical number sense. It's far more important than what it is. So I think it's a narrative that as a hobby or an industry as a whole, we need to start moving around. I think it's important that shops, instead of asking how big is your aquarium in litres, say sort of how long and how deep it is, because that changes the dynamics of everything that can go in it. It changes the way the fish swim and everything like that. So the blog that we're releasing is all about that. So I think that's an important conversation that I think needs to be had more often. As a retailer, generally my first question is, how big's your tank? And someone says, about 60 litres, and then we'll go into the fish room. So sort of this size for the tanks we've got, which are 65 litres, or this size. So those are very important numbers. I think more important than the water volume themselves, for the longevity of the fish and what we're trying to keep. Some fish like that swimming space to go back and forth. Bristlenose want to be at the bottom, so they want lots of ground available, for example. Yet there's some fish that are happy to go up and down. So I think it's an important question, and as an industry and a hobby, I think we need to try and do a little bit better and try and change that narrative and get away from water volume and go towards footprint and dimensions for what's going on. So that'll be released probably about half an hour or so after we get off this live. So I'll make sure I put a link to that on Facebook. So if you're, and probably on YouTube and stuff like that. So if you care to have a wee look, it's there for you. And I also need to apologise, which is at the top of my list, I thought about it, for the lack of original content that we've had this week. I don't have my phone on me, but it's well and truly busted. There's a very ridiculous bright light that goes across the screen because I dropped it. If I use it for longer than about, it's worse than that. That's ridiculous. If I use it for longer than about 2 or 3 minutes, my eyes start hurting and I get a headache about 5 minutes later. So there's been no videos that have been recorded over the last week. So obviously today's Friday, which would normally do Frozen Food Friday. We won't be doing that. So yeah, that's just where we're sitting at the moment. So I apologise for that. So you might see on Facebook we've shared a few more memes and a few more other videos and stuff that I've found around the place. That's because I've not been able to produce anything myself, because I just can't look at my phone for too long without the pain going through, searingly through my eyeballs into my brain. So apologies for that. And yeah, I agree. And my personal opinion is that marketing is obviously marketing is a huge thing worldwide, but I think marketing has become too important in this industry, if that makes sense. And it's taken away the more important things from the industry, like the best conditions for our fish, the best possible food that we could be feeding our fish, the best way we can get the water conditions for the fish that we keep long term. And that's how business works, and I totally understand that. But because we are a hobby, we can collectively begin to move that needle and shift that agenda, because we are hobby based. It's just something that as hobbyists I think we can change. Stacey was just talking about how I think we need to change the current way we look at aquarium sizing and stop talking about how many litres that we have, and more importantly talk about the footprint that we've got for our fish to live in. Because a 500 litre tall aquarium is different to a 500 litre long aquarium, and for the fish that we keep and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Just sort of trying to change the narrative, and we wrote a blog about it this week. So that's kind of where the topic is going with that. But yeah, and you're right. It's a commodity that's alive. It's real different, and I totally agree. And that's part of the reason why, like the fish room itself, where we're selling the fish from, I didn't want it to be so sterile, because these fish are alive, and the whole room wants to be alive, and just that whole enjoyment of it. And they're not disposable. They're a live animal, and they're a live creature that we care for and want to and should be giving them the best that we can be giving them every single day. So I don't disagree with you on that one. That's what I'm truly I am working on that. I am working on that. In particular, the low boys. They're available at the wholesaler. They're not really willing to bring them in. I had a discussion about bringing them in for out the back here, and I still may or may not do that. But I totally agree. I think for the best part, a lot of fish are quite happy with a shorter stumpy tank, but they want the length and they want the width. Also means as a hobbyist, you can probably stack 4 high as opposed to 3 high, because you don't have to go quite as high. Don't need quite as much arm room and that sort of stuff. So I don't disagree with you. I think that's a very valid thing, as opposed to the height and stuff. Like some fish absolutely want the height. I'm going to use Frontosa as an example. You put them in a slightly higher tank, they hang around more of the mid sort of water, as opposed to the lower tank where they kind of feel a little bit more confined. But I don't disagree with you. I think if we could go longer and lower and wider than higher, that's a far better option.
I've seen some really nice Frontosa today when I was at fish shop. I've not seen them in a display tank for so long. And they were right at the front. There was about a dozen of them in this one huge tank. It was immense. Yeah, nice. I never went any further than like 2 foot from the door for about 20 minutes. I've been offered a big group of Frontosa actually, which I'm going to take up on. It comes with a tank to house them, that kind of stuff. So just as a part of the long rolling system of setting up this Frontosa tank. So there's a breeding group of 10 or so. Oh, nice one.
yeah, so I thought it'd be quite nice to get them, spawn from them, and then watch the fry, raise the fry from day one, and then eventually put them into this tank that we're building out the back. And so from basically every single moment of their life, they've lived in this room basically, and see where we go.
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, I've got to get off my butt and actually do some stuff. That's not the right word. I need to find some time that I need to be able to allocate open to do the work on it, as opposed to I need to do it, but this is more important. I need to put it forward. So it might be a case of saying to my wife one night, I need to go down to the shop and do some work for a couple of hours, as opposed to trying to break it into it during the daytime. That's probably the right way of doing it, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, really enjoy it that way. Yeah. With no distractions, just you and the tank setup.
Yeah. So it's literally, I just need to cut the remaining silicone off and give it a really good clean, and then I can begin the reattachment process and hope that it sticks first time round. I'm not getting my kids involved in this. There is no way I'm letting my child have a knife. He's far too small, and he'll wave it around like a lunatic and end up cutting something. And my older daughters have zero interest in helping in this as well. So this is a me problem, and it's a me job. So
I know that feeling.
Yeah. Be cool if they did. The young fella enjoys the fish, and every time he comes in, he runs straight to the frogs. He absolutely loves them. If you can't find one of them, he tries to find the other one. So I've got to pick him up and find it. Then he'll spend 15, 20 minutes just looking at all the fish in the shop. So he likes that, but he's far too young to be being involved in this process. Wouldn't be able to keep his attention for long enough, and definitely wouldn't trust him with a knife. So that's all that I've got on my list of things. The main things for me was that we've got a blog coming out regarding the footprint versus volume of the aquarium, and that our podcast is coming out today as well. So that was the main things. But there's a few other bits and pieces in between. My little boy likes feeding them as well, under very, very strict high supervision. So he enjoys that, which is fun. And he quite enjoys cleaning them as well. He enjoys just so definitely get him involved with the things that I'm doing. But not so much with a knife or a bit of glue.
That's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
It really is. But he enjoys doing those other bits and pieces, which is nice as well. So we have confirmed the next 3 guests for every other Friday. So I think John might have something to come out in the next day or two regarding our next 6 weeks with the lineup.
Yeah, that'll be out today.
Cool. Yep. So we've actually got the next 3 months of people lined up. I'm very excited for some of the people that we've got coming through that we can talk to. There'll be some very, very fantastic information being shared. There'll be some people that people really enjoy in the hobby and the industry we're speaking to, and there'll be lots of information and informative stuff and practical stuff as well. So it's a really good mix of hobbyists, breeders, owners, like YouTube and Instagram people. There's a really good mix of people coming through in the next 3 months. So I'm really excited for how that's going. Fingers crossed it'll be good. Really looking forward to speaking to a couple of them. So at the start of each month, we will try and have this sort of update of who's coming through over the next few weeks. So everyone kind of gets a little bit fizzy, as much as I am about speaking to some of the people we're speaking to. So that'll be a good time. And I hope, Shelley, you don't feel like I'm talking it up so much and that you're getting a little bit nervous, because I'm very much looking forward to speaking to you next week regarding live foods and stuff like that. So I
think there'll be a lot of good information when we talk to Shelley.
I agree.
Everybody struggles with live food for some reason. It's one of those topics that everybody comes up against. Picking the right live food, keeping it alive long enough to benefit from it, and it's not just a case. It's not like normal food where you just go at your own pace, is it? It's difficult. So I'm looking forward to that myself.
I'm a firm believer that to get the best out of our fish, live food is the key. And yes, it is next week, really. I'm a firm believer. Colour, vibrancy, activity, the whole lot comes from live food. But there's a massive barrier when it comes to that for people that are feeding. Like, it's not as easy as opening up a lid, putting some in, closing the lid, and walking away sort of scenario. So I think something that I want to try and do is break down those barriers, and that's part of the reason I'm trying to get live food available to be sent out. It's like you get it, and then you can open it, you can pour it in, put it back in the fridge, and 2 days later you can get some more, and away you go. So that's what I'm hoping to achieve over the next year or two, is to try and break down the barriers when it comes to live food and getting more people making their own live food or purchasing live food to get the best out of their fish. Because I think that's really important and really key, and it's something that I think as a goal for the fish room that we can achieve in time.
Totally.
Yeah, and education is absolutely part of it. So yeah. So next week will be a good time. Thank you very much, Shelley. Yeah, I agree. Keeping it is easier than you think. Some of it is trying to have the right place to put it to start with. But yeah, I think keeping live food is fairly easy for the best part. Well, that went down far too fast.
I'm dry.
Yeah. Down as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much what we've got. Yeah. Not sure, is there anything else that you wanted to speak about, John, or anything that I've forgotten that you have looked through that we've got coming up?
No, you've covered everything like that. One thing I wanted to ask people that are watching is about snails. Now, I know you guys don't have the exact same snails as I've got, but what snails are best for algae control? I know you can't put snails in and they just clear the algae, but some snails are good at keeping the edge off it. And I was just wondering if anyone's got a go-to species other than a big old apple snail.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, for me personally, I like blue mysteries. They don't do a phenomenal job on algae. They do eat it. They just don't do an amazing job on it.
Yeah.
I think they're great for cleaning up leftovers and things like that. And I think they're really gorgeous looking snails, personally.
Yeah, they are. They're lovely, smooth shells.
Yeah. I wish the blue mysteries would have those racing stripes like the brown mysteries, because I think that'd be a great combination, but alas, they don't. I'm not a big fan of the browns. I just don't like the look of them, the colour. I like the blue. But yeah, we've only got, other than that, we've got the golden apple snails, Malaysian trumpets, ramshorns, and bladder snails.
Do you guys get nerite snails?
No, we don't. We don't get nerite or rabbits or assassins. I wish we got assassins. They are cool.
Oh, they are really cool. Yeah. I used to breed assassins a while back, and I was giving them away in my Facebook group. Phenomenal.
Right, cool. Yeah.
They are just. I just had a little 10-litre, 20-litre tank underneath my main tank, and it was just hundreds of them constantly. I don't know what I was doing right. It was working.
It was working. Yeah.
I
know a lot of people are down for ramshorn snails. They like the algae control.
They're all right. I mean, I've got them in that tank there for my puffers, but in my opinion, they don't do great on algae. They're active, so they give the illusion that they're that. But nerite snails are probably one of the better ones. And Malaysian trumpet snails, they're good for obviously turning over the substrate.
Yeah. But, what I find, if you've got a bit of algae on a piece of glass or whatever, you can see the snail trail working around them. So like you can see they're doing the work, but they're not totally doing it. It's a shame, because if they just did that a little bit more, they would be really good. But I think they're great, particularly mystery snails. They're great for cleaning up. I think they're fantastic for kids. Kids love them as well. Again, just from my own personal experience, the young fella absolutely loved the snails when we had them, and I think they're almost essential in a planted tank. They're just another point of difference. They're a cool colour. They're just a bit different. The ones that we have don't quite do do everything they need to do, if that makes sense, to fill in that gap. Yeah.
I've never thought about putting a bristle nose in with them.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, actually. I've just I've heard people get good result with auto sinklets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't get them anywhere just now.
Really?
There's problems coming from the Peruvian export coming into the UK just now. And any auto sinklets that you're finding in the shops are almost double the normal price. So hardly anywhere is selling them at the moment, which is frustrating.
Yep. Is that just an issue coming to the UK, do you know, or different parts of the world as well? Like, is it a Peruvian issue, or is that just the UK?
I think it's a Peruvian issue. I might be wrong, but I have heard a few people in Europe mention it as well. But I know it's every shop I go into is just having a nightmare.
How much do they cost over there?
We've probably £12-13 now. Used to be maybe easy £5-6, or maybe £8 or $9, maybe $10 roughly. But they've doubled.
Okay. Yeah, we are 20 to 25 for them.
Right.
I don't think that price has really moved much over the last 4 or 5 years. I think they've all been in and around that mark. Same with pea puffers. They've all kind of been between sort of 17, 18, 20, 21, 22 in that kind of mark. So, some fish have gone up a little bit wholesale, but they haven't really gone up at retail, which has been pretty good. Some definitely have, but a lot of the more common ones seem to have held quite nicely, which is nice for fish that you need a whole bunch of them for to get the best out of them, like ottos, for example.
So I might have a go at a bristlenose then. Yeah. I like bristlenose as well, so thanks, Stacey.
Yeah, I've heard people okay with bristlenose as well. I always thought, for some reason in my mind, that the pea puffers would just rip it.
The bristles.
Just for a bit of fun. But ottos, I've heard people having success with ottos with them. No real issues there at all. So which is cool because ottos are a rad fish. They also go really well with pygmy corridors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ottos and pygmies.
Yeah.
I've seen them really well together. It's a great combination that, and then if you can find something with a bit of colour flash through the middle, it builds up an aquarium quite nicely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, off to the fish shop tomorrow, I think.
Hey, I'm already at the fish shop today.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I don't have any aquariums at home. Otherwise, I probably would be shopping more often.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, trying to keep as much as I can here and not at home. So I can't bring myself taking my empty tank out of the lounge just yet. I still think I might do goldfish in there, but I haven't got round to it. I was saying to my wife the other day, it's really nice after coming home and doing water changes all day long and dealing with fish, not having to worry about making sure the tank's in really top-looking condition because there's nothing in there at the moment. So, and then I tried to convince her to let me put a 6-foot tank in the lounge, and she said, like 2 hours ago, you just said you like the fact that you haven't had to do any maintenance. Now you're trying to get a 6-foot tank in the house. So I didn't play that card very well.
Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, pretty much. So. Okay. So, if there's anything else anybody wants to talk about, we can continue with that. Other than that, I've got nothing more. So, if people want to continue, we can do that. Otherwise, we can all disband for the day, and you can listen to the podcast when it comes out and read the blog when it comes out. So, If you haven't, jump on Spotify and follow the Aquarium Frenzy podcast. Same with Instagram, and believe it or not, we're doing TikTok as well. Not quite sure how we're going to make that work, but I'll have a wee play around with that. Don't expect to see me dancing like a lunatic or anything like that.
Yes, you will be.
I won't be.
Yes, you will be, Cam.
No, I won't be dancing. I will be dancing.
Yep.
Yeah. But I don't have a clear plan for TikTok, but I thought we'd give that a go anyway. So it might just be videos of me looking at fish or you looking at fish saying, man, this is amazing, because hey, that's a good time as well. But
I've got a few ideas. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So I just thought the time was right to jump onto TikTok and add it to everything else. So, like I said, this year's
Everybody
moving
else
year,
does.
having to fiddle around with lots of different things.
Mhm.
Cool. All right, then. If that's it, we'll leave it with it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Before I run away, don't forget that our Waitangi weekend, which was last weekend, sale is still running until Sunday. So some great prices on some blue rainbow fish, all of the Ocean Nutrition frozen foods on sale, and bulk aquascaping rocks all on sale as well, plus a few other bits and pieces. So I forgot all about that until just then. So, yeah. All right, everybody, have a good one. Happy fish keeping. Catch you later.
See you later, guys.